Good morning, video games. Welcome to Filthy Casuals, a podcast about video games hosted by three very kind and extremely knowledgeable boys. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Tommy Daslow, and with me as always...
Ben Vanel here. Boy, am I excited to talk about video games. Adam, how do you feel?
It's the game of the year, baby. There can only be 10 each.
Games from all around the world centre on Fitzroy, Melbourne, Australia for Game of the Year.
Everybody's wearing their finest. Zelda's dressed in a dress.
Mm-hmm.
Link dressed in no shirt.
Yeah.
Oh,
Very
sexy
cool.
Link. Yeah.
This is our annual Tagoti episode.
What's the T stand?
10.
Oh, the 10. Oh, okay.
Oh, no, wait, hang on.
Or the.
Yeah, the 10. Tagoti.
Tatagoti.
Tagoti.
That's the quickest way of saying it.
I think that's Na'vi language.
Yeah.
Obviously, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora features in all of our lists, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
No, I haven't played it.
I haven't played it yet either.
It's part one. Happy holidays, everybody.
Yes.
We're going to do, each of us has a top 10 game of the year list.
Top 10, Dave. Top 10.
Top 10, number 10.
Don't spoil it.
This is annoying because where I'm sitting...
Rudy Giuliani. I had to think of a New York guy.
Where I'm sitting in relation to Adam, I can sort of see your list.
Don't look
and
at-
I'm terrified about accidentally spoiling your list for myself, even though the stakes are literally nothing.
There's zero
Yeah.
stakes.
There's
We could probably guess them.
Yeah,
But,
let's
yeah.
do that.
What did you get for number 4?
Yeah.
I'm not letting you copy.
I'm excited. It was a good year for games, I reckon. And,
Yeah.
and broadly, people seem to reckon that. It's going down in the books, and those books are going to get closed next week. But we'll start it this week.
Yeah. We'll slowly start putting them covers closer together.
One of those really dramatic closes of the book before you go like, and now you know the rest of the story.
That's right. But yeah, big year. I don't know. I think we were pretty keen for it at the start of the year. There were a bunch of games that looked like they were going to be big blockbuster smash hits and ones we would enjoy that mostly hit, I feel like. There's a couple of notable exceptions, but amidst, like Activision acquisitions and a lot of layoffs and a lot of things that weren't great.
Activision acquisitions, layoffs, hit the market.
I thought you'd have a full line, honestly.
Yeah, I should have had an entire song ready. It was like there was lots going on this year, and then
Yes.
also kind of we'll get to this in at the start of the new year, but like some things that I expected maybe to get talked about this year that didn't end up happening that we'll probably see next year. Some stuff that came out of nowhere for me.
Love that. We had that last year as well. A
it's
few
exciting.
big hitters. I think Curse of the Golden Idol was last year. That was
Yep.
a real surprise hit.
Depending on who you ask, there's not so much that like foregone conclusion Elden Ring type of thing for this year across different people. But I feel
Right.
like there are 3 or 4 different common number ones that I've seen getting spruiked.
Yeah, I feel like it is a huge year in that sense where there's not just like, okay, this is the game of the year. There's a few different ones that anyone that you talk to that has that at their number one on their list, it's not only number one on their list, it's an all-timer for them.
Yep.
Right.
And if you talk to another person, they won't have even gone near it.
Yeah.
So it's such like an interesting year in that sense where this is the thing that I've always felt about in the design of games, that every game has 2% of something that's just, it's not design, it's not graphics, it's just a vibe, it's an intangible thing. It's a little bit of magic dust. And if it doesn't hit with you, then it just is 2%. And if it does hit with you, it counts for like 80%.
I see what
and
you
I
mean.
feel like there's 5 different games this year that have, for one person playing it, they're like, this is mechanically fine, but it's just not grabbing me. But then for the other person, it's like, this is my whole life now. This is just doing the thing that I specifically
see.
like, and it's doing it to just a perfect extent.
I get that. Yeah, like there's that little bit of tarragon or whatever.
Yeah.
You're like, that's the best fucking thing I've ever eaten. Some people are like, it's potatoes, dude.
Yeah.
Wow. That's deep.
Thank you. I've really been working on myself this year.
But it was cool this year having like a month where there was a game that was just, everyone was talking about and everyone was loving and you'd be engaged in the conversation, and then the next month there was something that either you hadn't had the time for or just didn't resonate as much, but seeing the same level of conversation around it and it felt like there was like a new massive one of them every, for a few months in a row there, once a month it felt like.
There's a couple of those big ones that I would have loved to have spent more time with and stuff like that too, because there was just it was dense, and like trying to keep up with stuff for this. It does mean that some of that kind of slips away.
Yeah. And a lot of games this year that we'd been waiting for 6 years, 10 years in some case to
100 years
to materialize. Like a lot of stuff that was like feels like it's been being talked about for a very, very long time that kind of finally came out, which was cool.
Yeah. Speaking of talking about things for a very long time before they start happening, do you want to just start fucking rattling off some games?
I guess so,
as fast as we can and then leave?
Yeah.
I think that's all people expect,
mini
right?
episodes this week.
Yeah. I will say, I've got so many honorable mentions. I've got a 10. I've got, probably another 20 that I really liked. But I think maybe either didn't play enough to fit in, or just, weren't quite as good as my top 10. But I guess I'll, if they come up.
I think this is a year where for me, in my honourable mentions, with more time, I think my list might have been like 50% different.
Right.
Like every other year it's been like, that one might have slotted in there, but this is like, there are 4 to 5 big ones that I just was loving, but just did not have the hours to put a significant amount of time in.
Not like Tommy to be unable to slip in 4 to 5 big ones.
Whoa.
Whoa, 4 to 5.
Whoa.
I don't even know what that means.
Sir, you spoil me.
Having a bit of fun, getting bawdy at the Christmas party.
That's it. Photocopying our ass on the company, on the podcast company photocopier.
Yes.
I'm excited. Do we want to go, the name our orders appear in the title of the podcast?
Yeah, sure.
Which is Tommy Ben Adam.
Or do we want to go in the order that we appear on camera?
Which would be Tommy Adam Ben.
Yep.
Or Ben Adam Tommy.
Yeah, reverse.
Yep.
Clockwise, anti-clockwise.
I like TBA.
Yep.
We'll announce it later.
Yeah. All right, T.
All right.
Break us off some hot video game.
Oh, actually, quickly before you do it as well.
Well.
We're doing a listener game of the year poll too.
Oh yeah, yes.
And we're going to do that when we're back. We're having a little break. These are pre-recorded episodes. You're going to get an episode every week still, as well as on the Patreon, patreon.com/filthycasualspod.
Yes.
Get a load of this fucking
Nice.
guy.
Doing our best of everything that isn't video games.
Yep.
Yeah.
2024 stuff in the new year. Looking forward to it. But listener game of the year thing. There'll be a little poll. There'll be a link in the description. Go and vote for your favorites. We'll cover them when we're back.
And if you go to filthycasuals.com.au, tickets for our Melbourne International Comedy Festival shows are now on sale. You can buy one ticket to go to one show. It's pretty simple. That's traditional as far as I've been informed.
I've done that before.
Yeah, me too.
I did it just last week.
It's a common experience.
Yeah. However,
Oh,
Wait, a twist?
there's a but. There's a big but.
What
This
is this? A
ain't
photocopier at the Christmas party?
This ain't your grandpappy's buying just one ticket.
That's right. If you want to come to all 3 shows, you can buy a season pass. It's cheaper than buying one ticket per show. And each show will be different. There'll be guests, there'll be segments, there'll be not just like us sitting around talking about video games podcast style. It'll be a bit more of a live show.
Yeah.
So we'd love to see you there. filthycasuals.com.au for that.
And we should say also, if you do want to come to all 3 shows, and you also feel like wasting money, you are very welcome to just buy 3 tickets separately to all those shows and not bother with the set. We will accept that.
If you want to have an awkward time, you can buy every single ticket and only you come.
Oh, hell yeah.
I don't mind that, yeah.
Sultan
that's
style.
fine.
That would really make us feel like we're the court jesters, you know, just one bloke there who we're just doing the pod for.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind that at all.
If
He's
you
giving
do
us
it,
thumbs up or thumbs down for each joke.
I will call you my liege after every sentence if you do that.
Yep, it's a deal.
It's all bombing because he's like, honestly, I don't own a Switch, don't own an Xbox, don't have a PC.
I'm
the
just
last console I had was the PS2.
I'm kind of thinking about how expensive this was for me to buy every single ticket. Probably not worth it. But if I'd have gotten just one ticket or a season pass, I'd have been stoked at the value.
Yeah, then I'd be one of many.
Yes.
What a Christmas present. 7 podcast tickets, 6 podcast tickets, 5 podcast tickets, 4 podcast tickets. All right. Anyway, that stuff's all done. You can do a vote for your game of the year, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of numbers of things, My number 10 game of the year,
Whoa!
Gunbrella.
Whoa!
That's what we're talking. I forgot it existed.
Yeah,
Yep.
Gunbrella.
Fun little indie, kind of. I think I'd seen one of those indies that you see the trailer for in one of those longer presentations a while ago.
Yep.
You think it looks cool, but just you forget it, and then all of a sudden it's out next week. And this just really resonated with me. I loved the visual style of it. Mechanically, it felt great to play. I loved the little bit of weird RPG story to it, all the just different aesthetic things it was doing, the vibe of it, the feel of it. I thought it was just so unique, even though it had that very pixel art style that is, I guess, for me, I'm really into that look, so those things do stick out to me, but I can totally understand how, for a lot of other people, it's become a bit, it's all a bit samey, and it has sort of the opposite effect where it just feels like it all goes into the mix of just, every lower budget game tends to look that way now.
Because for every one great one, there's 40
exactly
not
yes,
so good
yes.
ones.
For every it's an interesting visual thing that they want to do. There's 50 that it's they just do it because it's cheap.
Yeah.
But I just thought what they did with that, and to sort of break out of the mold of just being another sort of sprite based indie platformer was really, really impressive. I really had a good time with it, and wasn't super long, didn't overstay its welcome, had a few neat little twists and turns, and just one of those ones where sat down. I mean, this speaks to the quality of it, that the demo of it is just the first hour and a half or so of the game, and your progress in that does not carry over into the full game, which is incredibly frustrating because it wasn't it's a random slice of it or they'd changed much of it. So I had to just go and do that bit of the game all over again, and didn't mind. I think that was the moment that I was like, okay, I'm sitting down and playing all of this again a day after I just did it.
Right.
And this is the real test of if I can be bothered doing this, then I'm probably going to be hooked in on the rest of the game.
Yeah.
500 Days of Summer, the game.
It really
Is
was.
that what that's about?
Sure.
No.
No.
We've had this
50
discussion.
First Dates.
You're speaking of thinking of 50 First Dates.
Right. I watch it every day, but then I forget it the next
Yeah.
day, so I can't.
500 Days of Summer is the incel call to arms of I was in love with Zoe Deschanel, and how could she treat a nice guy like me like this? It's just not fair.
500 Days of Sigma.
Fuck yeah.
Was it more platformy or more actiony? Remind me. It's shooty, surely, because
It's shooty.
Gunbrella.
It's sort of like a lot of...
I figured out what they're...
Yeah, the Brella.
Yeah. It's kind of puzzly.
That's what it's about.
It's kind of puzzly, you're walking into a town and someone's going the only way to get into this building is to find this thing. So you're sort of doing that, and then you're going...
Kind of like a Metroid game.
It's more like Castlevania.
It's a bit of both.
Yeah, it's a Castle-troid.
Yeah.
They're rarely ever anything like Castlevania, I got to say.
Yeah. There's one, anyway.
They're always way more like Metroid. But so you're being in a town, you're talking to people and getting your little quests, and then when you're going between towns, they're very action-focused little chunks where you're on a screen and you're having to work out how to take people out, and so those bits got challenging. Some pretty interesting bosses, and just a nice 2D scrolling platformer that had cool story beats in it and had stuff happening, not just now you're in this area, nice. It actually took you to some weird places and took all your abilities away from you at one point, and just all these different things happening that I thought I was sort of locked into where it was going, and then it turned into something a lot more ambitious than it sort of looked like. It looked like just, this is the mechanic. You just go through these areas and it's all combat focused. But doing these big chunks of story that I thought was pretty interesting.
Awesome. I will say here as well, I forgot to say earlier when we were doing the main housekeeping, now to do that little bit of house cleaning where you realize that you have not cleaned up one thing and the person's nearly there.
Oh, God.
We might talk about spoilers for some of these games too.
Yes.
We'll try and remember to mention if it's going to be a spoiler.
Yeah.
But that may come up. We're going to try and talk about these in detail at points. So
yes,
be aware, but we'll try to
with the bigger stuff. With this, I don't think I really need to, and also I do think like you guys, it's one that it sort of did pass a lot of people by.
We won't make a point of doing it.
Yeah. So I think like in a case like this where maybe this is the impetus for some people to finally go and check this out, because I didn't really hear a lot about it after it came out, or even just looking on end of year lists. Like, I didn't really see it on many others. I think the thing that made me remember that I'd played it was just scrolling through my Switch library and just being what's on there from the last couple of months that I enjoyed. But yeah, Gumbrella, my number 10 of 2023.
A little bit of summer summer reading.
A little bit of something.
I'm going to read How to Speak.
It's written phonetically, which is very helpful.
Yeah.
My number 10 game of the year, I have a very strong feeling we're going to hold off on a full discussion until probably next week.
Okay.
Fuck yeah, let's try and... I think I know what it is.
I'm ready to be wowed.
It's A Man's Name 2.
John Madden Football 2.
2022.
Yeah, it is Mr. Alan Wake 2. A good game for me, the 10th best game of the year. And
it's A Wake.
Yeah, dude.
Sorry, we'll talk about that later, obviously.
yeah. And also,
we'll talk about how he's a bad writer.
Yeah. Alan Wake 2. Really good game, but let's talk about it next week.
For sure.
Yeah.
But I agree, good game.
Good game.
Like I think is a good game about...
You still haven't read that book, have you?
No. I barely read what I wrote at number 10. Number 10.
Yes.
Game of the year from the desk of Adam.
IMHO.
IMHO.
IMHO or just IMO? Are you humble about this, or are you like, suck my dick, here's my opinion?
We built this up as our Game of the Year episode. I don't think it's that humble.
Sure, for my...
No, but that's what makes it humble. It's our Game of the Year, not the Game of the Year.
Oh, yeah.
IMAO, in my arrogant opinion...
Yes.
Fuck yeah.
The number 10 game of the year is... Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
This is a real... If I had have put more time into it,
Yeah.
I could see this being... Like, I loved what I've played, but I'm very early on. I just didn't feel... I know this will be my big summer one where...
Right.
By the time we're back recording again, I'll be like, God damn it, get the fuck out of here, Gumbrella.
Yeah, I figured we get to talk about this now because I really enjoyed myself with it. I think it's an improvement over the first couple of games in some ways, and also very similar to them in a lot of ways, but they are very fun games. The main thing is that I think they did a really good job of having a really momentum-filled story that carries you through this, like, the fun version of superhero stories where everyone's dealing with some personal shit through the mechanism of this monster's out to get me.
Yeah.
That's always the best way. Can I spoil an example of a scene that typifies that I thought was really cool?
Wish that you would.
As long as it's not at the end of the game, absolutely.
It's in the back third.
Okay.
Ish. There's just a point.
I don't care personally. Tommy, do you care?
I don't mind.
Okay.
I don't think that. So Venom is in this game. We all know that. But so Venom turns MJ into a Venom monster briefly. Mm-hmm. She is called Scream, which I assume is from the film franchise.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or from the comic books.
Or the painting.
And so you have this boss fight with as Spider-Man fighting Mary Jane Watson, your girlfriend,
right.
And all the shit that you're doing when you're Venom, you get sort of like fucking angry and everything when you've been Venomized.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
But that is a different one. But you're having this argument about your like relationship during it, where she's like screaming at you like you're so fucking selfish. Everything about our relationship is about you being Spider-Man. I don't get to follow my dreams, and it's like it's just presented in this really fun way where you're beating each other up.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
and it's about this extra thing. There's a cool relationship between the two Spider-Mans, between Peter Parker and Miles, where they're just sort of button heads a little bit over like, hey man, I'm giving a lot to like help you out here, and like you're teaching me and I respect you, but I need some back from you too. And he's like, nah man, I'm the best. I'm Spider-Man. It's all on my shoulders. I'm not gonna accept any help. And it does that stuff in a comic book way, but really well. It looks fantastic. It feels great to play.
Yeah, the seamless switching between the two of them is cool.
So cool.
Ben, I'd love if you and I play this game and we get up to that boss fight And it's just none of that MJ stuff is in there. You're fighting the missos fucking screaming at you. Adam, what are you talking about? It could not be more down the line.
It's just like it's
a very professionally made AAA game, very slick.
A couple of bugs and whatever in it at launch. I don't know how they've done to fix all of that stuff.
They're actually arachnids.
Oh, well, that's a type of bug.
I guess it is.
What I loved about this game, and there's a couple of other examples this year, is just the short runtime of it. Like a AAA that just gets in and gets out, does the story that it wants to do, in that if all you're doing is just going through the main bit of it. In a year where there were a few games that were incredibly long, and I think did that successfully, and then I think a couple of others that start to feel a bit like bloated and don't really justify their runtime. I love that we're getting back into this thing of like, just make a great, even if it's open world, the main story doesn't have to be 60 hours long.
Yep.
Just give you, if you just want to breeze through that, it's 12 hours. I love that like restraint of, especially for a project like this big with this much budget behind it, like that budget not just going to like, let's just fill this out with, 8 extra story beats that don't really need to be in there. I'd love to see more of that kind of approach of just...
Even some of the side stuff in this, which, is very... here's the points on the map and go do the same activity a few times. It finds ways to have cool payoffs for that stuff. And like, there's a really cool bit where like you're doing this sort of musician stuff for Miles. There's like a music museum. And then at the end you go to the opening of the music museum and it's got like this real history of like New York music. That's really cool. There's like a little nod to Spider-Verse in one of the things and like some really nice stuff in there. That's just like a pretty, it's not a surprising game, but it's super satisfying and enjoyable in the way that comic book hero stuff is when it's doing its best.
I kind of found the surprise of it, like like straight out of the gates, the scale of it, just even in the tutorializing, I found very impressive. That was the thing for me that was almost like that leap between the Uncharted games in terms of just the set piece stuff. I was really surprised by how just rapidly it starts going for that when you boot it up. It really is showing you like, hey, here's why you own PS5.
It's got some of the best stuff out of this whole year in that regard.
Yeah.
Too. Like it really does show off like, fuck, it's crazy what computers can do.
Yeah. I was doing one of the side stuff where you're going around taking the photos and I was sitting on a little perch watching two people play basketball and I'm meant to be getting a photo of that. And I've got my camera there and it keeps saying like out of focus. I'm like, no, I'm not. It's a good photo, and then you know it's just looking for you to be in a certain place and get a certain angle, and then so I get to like where it wants me to be, and I take the photo, and it's like success, and you look at it, and it's just the worst photo you've ever seen in your life. It's just like someone's foot, where it's like where I was before. Yeah, that's where you want the photo.
Yeah.
But just that funny like video game mechanic thing of like, no, you're meant to be here. Yeah. It's like this isn't a good photo.
We programmed in a little square you've got to stand in.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if the guy's actually in frame or not.
Some cool, surprising stuff in there, but yeah, like it's just a really solid, fun story and a well-playing game, and that's why it earned a spot at number 10 on the official Game of the Year list.
Interesting. Well, here's the unofficial number 9 Game of the Year for Filthy Casuals, and that also has the honour of being the official Tommy Dassolo number 9.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
All right.
2 award wreaths.
Yeah. Super Mario RPG.
Oh.
Yep.
Wow. 1996's Game of the Year as well.
1996 called it once it's Game of the Year back. Honestly, a lot of this is probably just down to the proximity of when I've played it before making this list. But yeah, I just had a really good time with it. I don't think there were too many moments in it that really, really wowed me. But once I started playing it, I just didn't stop and finished the whole thing pretty quickly. So I was like, something to be said for that. I know all it is just a fresh coat of paint on an old game. But I think that it really just does speak to... For me, like I've always felt very like I just don't mind about Nintendo rehashing these games when all they do is just put a lick of paint on it, because I just think it speaks to the design of these games from back in the day still holding up to such an extent where really that's all you need to do. Like they have so many games in their catalog that aren't needing to be really brought up to standard too much. Like they can sort of these games can still feel fresh even though it's the same skeleton underneath after all that time. And that's just what I love about them as a company. Like, their design principles have always been so evergreen with what they do. Like, they don't really chase trends. They don't try and just like, you know, do stuff for the sake of doing it. They want their games to feel like sort of timeless, like they could have come out in any time. And
I guess what it's saying as well that this is like Square Enix and then some other team who did the
yes,
thing,
yes, true. But and yeah, I mean, it's I also just love that they brought this back, because it is such a weird one where people have been asking for it to be re-released for such a long time, and it's sort of
gone like unacknowledged almost.
Exactly, yeah. And so the fact that they did finally bring it back and give it such like a loving coat of paint and put in these new little animations in it, and it's such an interesting landmark in them as a company, where it's Square being given the keys, coming up with all these other new characters that they then have not ever been able to do anything else with, because then for a long time after this was sort of the last bit before the breakdown of that relationship, which is so fascinating too, which maybe speaks to a part of why they haven't ever dipped back into it, because it is kind of, there's all this sort of baggage around it and their relationship with Square. But
and you're getting pretty soon after this came out to when like Final Fantasy VII is out the year after, and this type of game starts to become pretty locked into a rhythm of what they do.
Yes,
and this is so noticeably creative the whole way through, like in a really fun way.
It's interesting too, because it's from after this game comes out, then they don't ever go back to this well again, even just Nintendo themselves, because the Mario RPGs become either Paper Mario or the Mario and Luigi series. They don't ever really tap into this vein again of just Mario, like not a weird sort of side version of Mario RPG.
Did you ever, this is a complete side thing, I always used to think tapping into the vein was like a heroin thing. I didn't realize it was a vein of ore through rock that you're.
Oh, I thought it was it. That's why playing this game made me feel like I was on heroin.
No,
really
you're mining.
Time. And once I started, I couldn't stop.
It's and the liquor paint is really good too. Like it's a hell of a paint job.
Yeah, it's this was so a thing where. Maybe we'll talk more about this later or in our look ahead for next year, but it was such a surprising year for me with Nintendo, where I just did not expect to get this amount of stuff out of them in year 6 of a console's lifespan. Like, even at the start of the year, we knew there were a couple of heavy hitters coming out, but something like this, even though it is just a remake.
Year 7, technically, sort of.
Yeah.
Right.
Even though all this is a remake, just getting something like this thrown into the mix was very surprising for me. And yeah, I'm always very forgiving of the remakes and the ports and everything, because I never sat down to play this at the time, and I was rapt to have an excuse to be able to do that with the best possible looking version of it.
I'm sure we'll acknowledge later that there's nothing wrong with having a remake on your list.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Number 9.
But yeah, fun game. I felt weird about putting it on the list because it is very old and it's not amazingly remarkable. But like I said, it's maybe just the proximity to, like, I just sat down and burnt through it, and it's fresh in my mind, and I had a really good time doing it.
And your list, if you put Jenga on there, then I'd be like, well.
Yeah. Is there a video game of Jenga? Because that would count.
Yeah, if I found some version of it that had come out this year.
Yeah.
Cool.
My number 9. BioShock Infinite, a.k.a. Atomic Heart.
Good shit.
Yeah. Didn't see this on any other list. I didn't see anyone talk about it after it came out, basically, but I really, really enjoyed it. It is the BioShock sequel that we won't get, maybe.
That we don't have at home.
Yeah.
That we have to go out for.
Yeah.
For 2 more years, I guess.
Yeah. But I loved it. It really just is exactly the BioShock mechanics. With an interesting story. I felt that kind of like alternate Soviet Union where there's a bunch of robots and they go crazy, and like it's a classic science fiction sort of tropey story. Visually incredible. Like, I loved the design, the specific alternate Soviet sort of iconography and stuff. Scale of it was huge. Interesting, like first person Metroid like puzzle platforming. I just I had a great time with it.
Yeah, you've been talking all year about how that fridge wants to fuck you.
That's right.
You've been like, I think she really means it. No,
I
man,
bought a smart fridge.
She just works at the bar. She's a fridge behind the bar. She's just being nice to. Nah, dude. Did you ever play that DLC that came out for it in like August?
No.
Yeah, cool.
No, I got to get around. I mean, like we said,
so much shit came out.
So much summer reading. My list of honorable mentions, like I said, is about 20 games long as well. So huge year.
What was the story that Evan from Gamey Game was telling us the other day, where like they played the trailer for this game in an episode, and then some other account like linked to, like showed a clip from the trailer, but rather than go to the clip of the actual official trailer, for some reason it went to the clip of them playing it in an episode of their show.
Okay.
So they've got all these extra views because of something like not linking to the official trailer or something like that.
No, it was that they put up an episode with that trailer, and then they got a notification being like, on your behalf, we have copyright struck this other clip using this content.
Oh.
And the clip that
That's
was
right.
like claimed against was the official trailer.
That's
for
right.
Atomic
Oh.
Heart.
Yes, that's right.
Wow.
Evan's like,
That's okay to be public information? They've talked about that? Sure.
and so obviously Evan was like, take it down, no.
Yeah.
He was like, this is
It's
not
like
right.
it's your copyright.
Yeah.
They start putting Michael Jackson songs in every episode.
Yeah.
Cool. Boy, that's so weird.
That is bizarre.
I
And
was,
yes,
I was like getting ready as a joke to be like, I got a load of Tommy not understanding YouTube. What an old man.
Yeah.
And then I didn't comprehend any of the...
Yeah. I mean, I was wrong.
Yeah.
I was like
Tommy didn't make it up.
% of the way there.
No, I couldn't tell what it was about. That's funny.
That is very weird. And like it does speak to a lot of the weird sort of like backroom shenanigans with the company and the developer and stuff.
But part of why I bring it up is because we had that conversation 2 weeks ago, and it was a real moment in my head of being like, oh god damn, that game came out this year.
Yeah.
There's a
It's
few
like
of
I'd
those.
completely forgotten about that game existing. Like,
Totally.
I felt like that was in lockdown that we were talking about that game.
Right. I think it was like March, April. Like it was a
Even
busy
Feb,
time of year.
I think. Because
it might
I
have
think
been,
that and like Wild Hearts, which is one that I never got around to.
Right,
Maybe
right,
came
right.
out around the same time.
But good game. And a Game Pass game that I do recommend people try, especially if they like BioShock and just kind of skimmed over this, saw some headlines and were like, oh, is it bad? It's a really good game. So
Cool.
It makes sense, I guess, that some of that, because people seem to have turned on BioShock over the years as well.
And it was very much like it did innovate in some ways. There was some sort of physics interactions things that were totally, not something that was in BioShock, but a lot of it was in BioShock.
But if you're a BioShock boy, get shocking.
Yeah, I always say that.
Get ready. Speaking of the shocker.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, this won't be a shock. At number 9, I don't know. We'll probably talk
This
about
won't be a
it.
shock. At number 9, the video game.
It's great. 9 hours long.
Oh,
Gets in
yeah.
and out. No, number 9 for me, we may talk about it later, was Dredge.
Yeah, we'll talk about it soon.
Talk about it soon.
Yeah.
A little bit of...
Yeah, we'll talk about it at some point.
Okay.
Well, I liked Dredge. That's another one from earlier in the year.
Yes.
Yep.
Not just. Yeah, just relatively recent DLC.
Oh yeah, I haven't gone around to that
Me neither.
because
Me
it's
neither.
like contained within playing the game, and I finished the
Yes.
game. So
Yes.
This was this was one too that I heard grabbing a lot of people that don't play a ton of video games as well.
Oh, right.
Nick Cody, friend of the show,
Yes.
listened to our episode about it and then told me he'd gotten onto it. And then
Yeah,
I
nice.
saw comedian Daniel Sloss, who had just downloaded it off the back
Slossy.
of
I wonder where
Cody's,
he heard about it. Yeah.
Cody's recommendation. I was like,
From his boyfriend.
I'll tell you this for free, you son of a bitch. That's technically a Tony recommendation.
Yeah.
My friend Pete got onto it and loved it. Has
Hey,
2 kids. Doesn't have a ton
Save
of
it
time
for
to play
when we're
games.
actually going to talk about the game.
this is a
Please.
perfect time.
But yeah, that was like a cool little
Yeah.
one of those little breakthrough ones that was
Couple of those this year, I feel like.
I think we'll talk about we'll obviously talk about it later, but just in regards to that, like one point, it is a good one for like pretty simple premise with a cool hook, and like it makes sense that it got people like, oh, I know what that is immediately.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
yeah.
But not in a way where I'm not
Totally.
interested.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was my number 9, but we'll discuss why in moments to come.
Yeah.
My number 8 game of the year Look, I'm just packing them all in together to get it out of the way. Metroid Prime Remastered.
Nice.
Never played it.
Well, why is it on your list?
Yeah, come on, that's irresponsible
Tommy.
journalism.
God.
Well, everyone says it's great. I'm happy to take their word for
Okay,
it.
yeah, no, that's fair.
Again, this
My
is
favorite
something
book
that-
is War and Peace.
This is something that people have been, clamoring for a remaster of, or
Yep.
just any kind of re-release of for a very long time. And yeah, another starting the year thinking that the Switch is winding down, and just this being, and also this just being announced and then dropped in the same day was great. Not making us wait a long time for just a remaster to drop. But yeah, again, just speaks to that. You could play this not knowing the history of it, and you don't have to give it any concessions. It
Right.
still feels fresh. It still feels great. The remaster job they did of it is great. It looks fantastic.
Similar to the Mario RPG one, where it's just like crank up the visuals to what the Switch can do now.
Yep.
Same game underneath, because
Yep.
that game's still good with some different controls and stuff.
Different controls, yeah, and also, yeah, great to be kind of getting people back into that Metroid world, because you have to assume that, yeah, we'll hear something about Prime soon, 4 soon, hopefully.
I wonder
But,
what's happening with the other two as well. But
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
I was going to
that's-
say, maybe
yeah.
that's the next thing, but yeah.
Well, this was a thing where, I feel like even before the pandemic, that was the rumor every 6 months was all 3 of them are dropping in a bundle this year, and so yeah, for that to finally materialize in some form was great, and yeah, just had a great time playing it. I never played it back in the day, and yeah, great atmosphere, great tone. Just again, just happy for these things to get this life finally. I'm still going to count it as a game of this year, because it didn't feel like I was playing a game from 2002.
yeah, it's a great game. I played it for at
That
least
game
the
can-
4th time.
It can
and-
drink in America now. That is an old ass game.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
God damn. Imagine
It can buy
Samus
a-
after a couple of beers rolling around the floor.
It can buy a gun in America now.
Oh god.
The ultimate Metroidvania.
Stick it on my hand. My arm should be the gun. It's a really good game, and yeah, played and really enjoyed playing it again for possibly more than 4th time.
And again, annoying the inconsistency with Nintendo, where they'll do that, where it's like, yeah, it's a remaster port, here it is.
Yeah.
And then something like, Paper Mario, it looks like they're doing a little more too, but they're like, that's coming out sometime next year.
Sure.
It's like, I'd love the consistency of just like, announce them, drop them,
Yeah.
let's get them that day. But yeah, just had a great time revisiting this. And before Dread in 2022, no,
One, I guess, yeah.
21, I hadn't really engaged with much Metroid stuff, certainly in the last few years. So kind of for them to be filtering all this stuff back out and kind of getting us back into that world again is it's such a strong franchise. So that was the main thing, was just it got me really keen to see what they got for the next installment.
Zero Mission and Fusion are both good too on the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, I've got them both sitting on there.
Ready to roll.
Get ready to
got the,
ready to roll, huh?
I've got the
Okay.
official carts of both of them.
Yep.
sitting
Of
there.
course you do.
I'll come check. Yeah, it's Metroid. The Metroid games are really, really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, Nintendo's so inconsistent with that stuff. They're like bloody price stickers. They're all over the shop. It's not my turn yet. Fuck, I was ready to go. Number
Yes.
Yeah.
You can say it for me.
8. All right, Ben's number 8.
Is Starfield.
Okay.
Let's talk about it now.
Hell yeah.
It's. I
this
wrote
was
it
Very
down.
kind of you to check with me.
I had initially I did a bit of rejigging last night. This was right near the top of my list, and a bit of retrospect and a bit of realizing I hadn't stuck with it beyond, and to be fair, beyond 50 hours. I really did flog it hard when it came out.
I bet you did. It's just a good time at the Christmas party.
You're gonna get HR coming knocking on your office Monday morning.
The hurrah brigade who are going to come and cheer for me.
The ha reward.
Yeah.
We're coming to my office at 9 a.m. for a firm handshake and a job well done.
I did really love this game. It didn't match up to maybe all of the lofty ambitions that I maybe expected.
Which is not- I don't
or
think
certainly
that's-
other people more so than me. I don't
Yeah.
generally fall into that too much.
That
but
they did present. As
Yes.
That's
well,
what I
think
mean. That's
is-
what I was going to
Yes.
say. I don't think that's necessarily the game's fault. Like you had that presentation where you had that lady from Xbox saying, "This is the most important RPG that's ever come out."
Yes.
It's like, don't say stuff like that.
Totally.
Even if it is true.
Yeah.
Them, we'll probably have talked about this a week ago, but like them buying ad space in the Game Awards to be like, "Good job, everyone."
Yeah.
Pretty funny.
Yep.
But I had the same experience of like really enjoying it. It's in
Yeah.
my honorables,
Right.
Because I got like 40 hours of having fun out of it,
Yeah.
and then stopped thinking about it. And every time I have remembered it, haven't felt the draw to go back.
I think I do feel a draw, but there is, like we've said many times already, there are other games that I didn't even start that I really want to play. This is a game, and they've talked about this being like a 15-year-long game. They'll
Right.
keep adding stuff to it, which is great. I love the customization of the ships. I love the story, like the setting is interesting. That design stuff that we talked about at the time, I love the aesthetic. It is Skyrim in space. As I guess like with Marvel Spider-Man 2, it isn't necessarily reinventing the wheel, but it is doing something that I like very, very well.
Yep.
for sure. I think
That 2% of magic, baby.
Yeah.
And
And it's that NASA punk.
I wonder if you agree that I think the bit where the Skyrim in space, where it doesn't quite do the Skyrim thing, and this has been everyone's sort of thing, is like the exploration aspect of it is sucked out a little bit, which is probably what dragged it off of being like letting me get so sucked into it as those earlier games of theirs, possibly.
Yeah, I didn't mind so much. Like I just think of it as like levels or stages or scenes or whatever, where you really are just going launch, land, and you're in a small sort of curated space. It does suffer in comparison to No Man's Sky in that element of complete freedom and immersion. That isn't necessarily why it's like lower on my list than it could have been. It just overall wasn't quite the brand new next gen thing that it was maybe potentially going to be. It really is just like an exactly next Bethesda game.
Yeah.
And with that stuff too, like if chicken's well cooked, it doesn't matter if you ordered it from a menu or walked around and looked for a buffet.
Yeah.
Number 8.
Hang on, take us. I'm going to need a few more minutes.
Buffets
to
are
dissect
open
that.
world.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Menus are level based.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Okay.
Menus are menu based. It's a
Exactly.
menu. Yeah.
You're picking it from a menu.
Absolutely.
Still be good chicken.
And you're looking at, you're scanning over the you're at Smorgies, you're scanning over the buffet, and then from
Yeah.
over in the corner you go like, hey, come over here. Like, oh, what's this?
But in this one, the waiter
Some
comes
jelly.
up to you
Yeah.
and then you center the waiter in the middle of your vision.
Yeah.
Go right up close to him and then
And his
talk.
face doesn't really animate that.
No.
Honestly.
Well,
I
he's
think
at
he's had
work.
Botox
He's
or
trying to be a
something.
bit professional. He's like
Right.
one of the snooty kind of like, what would you like? Chicken? My number 8, I think we'll talk about later.
Okay.
This one is one that I think when I go back and play more of it, because I sort of I didn't play anywhere near as much as I would have liked to of it, because other stuff started coming out and was already out, and just it was in a hectic time of year. But I
Okay.
really enjoyed what I played of my number 8, Armored Core 6.
Yeah, that'll come up later.
It'll come up later.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying it's not low because
It'll come up next week.
Yeah. I figured so. But I really like it, and it is a very fun game that I factored in the fact that I haven't gone back to it.
Right.
As like, oh, well, I guess I did go back to a couple of the others that are further up or whatever.
Yep.
But also, it's fucking cool.
It's a cool ass game.
We'll talk about it more later, but Armored Core 6 is what I would consider to be, for now, my number 8.
Fires of Rubicon.
Yeah.
Fires of Rubicon.
What a subtitle.
There was a year when Nier Automata should have been higher up my list, and I have a feeling like
Right.
this could be sort of one of those where it's like I'm going to go back and edit this episode and change it, revise history.
Yeah, okay.
Well, speaking of the Fires of Rubicon,
Yes.
Okay.
my number 7 game, Fire Emblem Engage.
Whoa!
Oh, okay. I was so excited to figure out how that possibly.
Yeah. For a
Speaking of-
split second, I thought it might be Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of Fires of Rubicon, my number 7 game, Con the Fruiterer, the mobile
Ruby,
experience.
Emerald and Ruby versions of Con the Futura.
Futura.
Yeah.
Con the Fuhrer.
Couple of Jews. Couple of Jews.
Yeah, man, the Blitzkrieg was terrifying. It took over Poland in a couple of days.
Oh,
Wait, what did you say? Oh, yeah, this was an honorable mention for me.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really good game. Amongst the 20 games that could have probably been 10 to 5 on my list.
You love just a banger start to the year.
Yes.
Jan 15 or something like that, straight out of the gates.
Yep.
Just, hammering this one. Had a really good time with it. Not quite up there with Three Houses for me, which is an all-timer. I
Yeah.
think is a little more interesting in its story, and the whole sort of conceit of it is reaching for a little more. This is a bit more back to basics, even though it's got the mechanic of the rings, which is cool, but isn't, feels a little superfluous. It just does feel like this is a lot more like basic story of you're this guy, you're going around the world, you're doing these battles. But the visual style of it, I loved. I thought it looked beautiful, and especially in a year or 3 years where increasingly the capabilities of the Switch are constantly coming under fire. I feel like last year
Under Fire Emblem.
under Fires of Rubicon.
What?
I feel like last year especially was like a lot of stuff coming out that was, even first party was really struggling.
Yeah.
And so to have this just have this like beautiful style that just felt like whatever they'd had to do under the hood to get it running so seamlessly. Like it looked beautiful. It had no issues. And yeah, just that Fire Emblem style of combat. I just, fell in love with it all over again. And, the Advance Wars remake finally coming out, I was excited to play, but it just didn't quite grab me in the same way as this. I just love this stupid anime bullshit that's just really dialed up to 11 in this one. Unlocking, getting new characters every battle you get 2 new characters.
Great character design.
Yeah.
Really, really like... I think Three Houses is a better game, like by a significant margin. But I think the character design is more to my taste in Engage. It's a little bit sillier. It's a little bit more creative.
People
were shitting on the toothpaste hair stuff, which I never thought looked bad.
I thought it looked
fun.
interesting.
Yeah.
Like
I thought it was a smart move off the back of, Three Houses was so beloved, but it's a very like... The characters are all like in their school uniforms.
Right.
It's very like dark. It's a lot grittier. And so it was a smart move with this one to give it that point of distinction of going like, we'll make it a bit more cartoony. And
Right. I guess people who liked Three Houses, which is us, but some people were like, I just want more
I
of
just
that.
want the same thing.
Yeah.
But you're right. I thought I never thought any of that stuff looked stupid. It's like, it's a big, dumb cartoon game.
They got magic.
Yeah. And he
It's bright and colourful and exciting looking. Like,
he used to be a fucking dragon. Like,
Yeah.
Colors are great.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan.
I'm always looking at them.
I'm a big fan, although they don't feature that much in my number 7.
I respect them too much to wear them as well, but like, they're cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to?
Maybe a little bloated. Like,
I never finished it, I will say.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also really, really enjoyed it. I think it does suffer in comparison to its predecessor.
yes,
Which
absolutely.
It's just like, I think if this came out instead of Three Houses, it would be top 5, in my game of the year. I just know that it could have been.
I went into it going, Three Houses an all-timer.
Yeah.
I struggle to see how it could match that. And so even just getting more of the flavour and it being close enough, was enough for it to be my number 7.
It's a series that I think where it's cool over so many years of existing too. They change it up a bit, and some of them are
They
different.
change it up just the right amount. Like
Even though the core stuff is pretty, Fire Emblem's got a very certain kind of combat thing.
mechanically,
Yeah.
it doesn't really change all that much, but with Three Houses adding in an overworld that you run around in or a base that you run around in was new, and bringing that back in this. And I thought it was cool in this one, finishing a battle and then you you can run around the 3D space of that and
Yes.
just talk to people that were in battle with you and
Grab
pick
some
up
items
little
and
items
shit,
that have been
yeah.
left behind and adopt some animals.
Yep.
I thought that was
right.
like a really nice little move to just contextualize the space a little bit more and
Yes.
make it a little bit more interactive and immersive.
Yeah. Well, like I said, my game that comes in at number 7 had a bit more of a muted color palette. It was, I think, I guess depending on the definition, but in my view, it's my indie game of the year. It is a little game from New Zealand called Dredge.
Okay, it's been mentioned. Is it time to talk about it?
Is it time? I feel like it's...
If it was, I don't know. Remember if we said we'll talk about them in depth when it's at the highest point of someone's list.
Yeah,
makes the most
yeah.
sense.
It's not time to talk about it yet.
Oh, keep on sailing.
What can I say about it? Nick Cody liked it. No, yeah, let's talk about it later. But yeah, number 7 on my list.
Cool.
Dredge, great
All right.
game.
Well, once again, number 7. We may well be having a bit of a chinwag about this in the future, the near future.
Okay.
Number 7 for me was a game.
Okay.
I'll give away that much.
Good start. Good start.
Hang on.
It starts with an S.
Oh yeah, I think we'll be talking about it soon.
Okay. It's called Super Mario Wonder.
Oh, no.
Brothers Wonder.
Brothers Wonder.
Super Mario Brothers Wonder.
I had the wrong game in mind.
That's my number 7. Tommy, are we talking about it later?
We'll talk about it later.
Right.
Yeah, okay. But, well, I will say fun.
Yeah, it's a fun game.
Fun game.
Honorable mention for me. I didn't finish it. I do intend to. It became a bit of a fun pick up and play 2 levels sort of game, but good game.
It was a fun gorge on it completely as fast as I can game for me
Right.
because I really did enjoy it. We'll get into more of it
Homer when
later.
he's in hell eating the donuts.
Yeah, little Wonder Flowers. Yeah.
All the donuts be like, "Hey man, nice to see you. Wow, it's cold up here." Yeah,
You got
it's
this.
great. We'll talk about it when Tommy wants to.
Yeah. Will it be this week or will it be next week? Can you give that away?
Next
Well,
week.
because this is your
Yeah.
number 6.
This is my number 6
Damn,
game.
we're rocketing through these.
Yeah, we are.
Something that we might be talking about later, I think.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe this system doesn't work.
No, there's some. I've got plenty of content to
I
fill
think,
out the
I don't know, we
episode.
might be talking about it now. Or we might be, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But let's
either.
find out. My number 6, Dredge.
Oh, really? Is that all of us?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, great.
Yeah.
great.
Okay.
I was being a silly boy.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Fantastic
It
game.
is annoying when someone brings it up and it's like the one right before yours and you're like,
Yeah.
no, it's funnier to just let this ride out.
It's feel like a sailing thing where you see the boat and you're like, is that an enemy boat? Oh, it's another English boat. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, the French colours. Uh-oh. I watched Master and Commander this year.
Hell yeah.
Or maybe last year. Anyway, yeah, Dredge. Okay, let's go.
Fucking sick game. First game out for this studio, I think. And yeah, really intelligent mechanic. I think. I mean, it's doing a collab with Dave the Diver. Is that what that was?
Dave the Diver is going to have some Dredge stuff
Yeah.
in it for a while.
And of the two, like similar enough, interesting fishing mechanic
Yeah.
things.
Why the fuck wouldn't you link up?
Yeah. I much preferred Dredge. I thought it was incredibly Moorish. Like it was like a Mario Wonder for me, where I just couldn't stop playing it. Loved that loop that you got into of going out, fitting as many fish in your boat as you can, going back. Great story. Loved that atmosphere. Fun, like really fun ending.
And I don't think it was
Just-
on any
yeah.
of our radars until it dropped and people started talking about it.
Yes.
But yeah, I think it was it middle of the year? Just like
it was
sitting.
like March.
You're right.
Right.
Yeah, March,
Sitting,
April.
sitting down at night and just really getting into that, like, not quite fully role playing, but just, sitting down, it's getting dark, you're just driving your little boat around and really just like really getting into the vibe of it. A really good, like, late at night game.
It did a great job of having its like foreboding,
Yes.
but also very like encouraging you to explore atmosphere. I really wanted to go see every corner of that place. The fishing stuff was like very simple, but like they kept it fresh, which you want fish to be, with like the different types of fish taking slightly different commands to pull up.
Yep. Having that almost like, I think we talked about it with another game a few weeks ago, like the Mario Golf mechanic of like getting the
Right.
timer in the
Yeah, and like the upgrading of your ship and all of that, it's all obviously stuff that's been in plenty of games, but it just was done with so much like polish and charm and stuff in here that it didn't feel like you were saying with Gunbrella, it wasn't like, oh, sort of a explory, not roguelikey, but upgradey kind of indie game or whatever. It just felt really characterful and like certain of itself.
Exactly. It all had such clear purpose.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like, oh yeah, this is a time killer, you got to upgrade this thing.
When you pitch a game to someone not by the mechanic of it that's been done, it's like, oh, it's an inventory management thing or whatever.
Right.
When you're pitching it as like, yeah, you're a little guy and you're like sailing around to the, like it's
There's something going on under the
when
surface.
night falls, you got to get back home.
It's so much more than just like the mechanic like format of it.
Right.
The tone and the personality of it is so much a part of what people are going to like about it.
Absolutely, and it was like the right length and everything. I do think that as you kind of went on, the islands got slightly less interesting than the last.
There was a point where I nearly bounced off it. There was just maybe the second to last one. I felt like it dragged for me a little bit.
The quite mazy one,
one. And then but the end of it is great for something like this where you just kind of think you're gonna, either solve the mystery or get the end, like for it to have kind of a cool sort
finale,
of weird, not quite twist, but like a weird, interesting end to it. Like,
and multiple endings, right?
I think a couple.
Yeah,
I think,
right. Yeah.
And the whole way through, even though, the story and stuff is light or whatever, it's got such a sense of place. It's not an in-depth thing, but in-depth. But like every bit of it is so just cool. Like the tone and the vibe is really nice.
Yeah.
I fucking didn't like that there's kookaburras as like the exotic bird, because I hear them all the time and they ain't exotic. The sounds of the kookaburras on like the second island or the third island.
Yeah, I don't really remember that.
It's not actually a gripe. It's just funny when you hear like
kookaburras outside your window when you're saying you hear them all the time.
And they were in the game.
They're in the game. The missos yelling
they
at
were
me.
in every game this year.
Won't shut up.
I do think that as you say, like there's not like a strong and direct and like overly written plot or anything, but I think the narrative of it stands up against like all those ones that were nominated at the Game Awards. It is well written. Like it is implied, and it's subtle.
And
I guess
the characters and stuff you're meeting sort of along the way are like interesting. It's got something new for each sort of different section, like a different type of thing going on in each place.
And it's one of those ones where, the story isn't in the cutscenes. The story is you and what you're doing. Like,
exactly.
That's the difference.
And I really like. It really gets you into it. It draws you in, and like the feeling of like, oh shit, I think I'm too far away.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'll be able to get back. Oh, I reckon I can fit in 2 more crabs.
And that beautiful thing where you're like the first bits that you're doing, where it's kind of teaching you, you're going not very far at all.
Yes,
but your boat can't travel very fast or very far, and you're just gradually kind of building up and learning it, and then by the time you're 3/4 of the way through and you go back to that area and you're just blitzing around, you're like, you see that progression that you've made of like, oh yeah, that little journey used to take me like 15 minutes and now I can do it in like a minute and a half.
You start getting like the jet booster thing and all of that stuff, like a teleport.
That first upgrade that you get that feels like really significant and not just like a very mild thing of like, oh, now we are cooking here.
Yes. It's a really cool game that I enjoyed.
Yeah, it was my 7th favorite game of the year.
It was my 9th.
Yeah,
it's great.
It was my 6th.
Yeah. Wow, that gives me an idea.
And another one that was cool to see, like, it take off in such a way.
Yes.
It felt like the indie this year that sort of snuck out for a lot of people. Didn't have that. I mean, obviously, some people would have been watching it, but for us at least, sort of, it wasn't until people were playing it that I felt like it got onto a lot of people's radar, and to see it be small team and really, really, really have that huge launch was awesome.
Yeah, it was the goose game of this year, basically.
And they have, and like we said, I haven't gone and played that expansion, but they've added a couple other things. Like I think there's sort of like a peaceful mode in it now where you're not getting all the nighttime stuff. You can just go fish if you want.
Right.
Things like that. Like it's a cool game.
Yeah, now's a good time to go into with that DLC that's
part of
the
it's
main
like
bit.
a 5th island or whatever.
There was something else they were changing about it too that was there was like one little thing about it that sort of irked me mechanically that I think they were changing in an update.
Oh yeah, they removed the fishing.
That's what I was going to say. You don't like fish.
Yeah, I can't remember, but now's like a great time to go in because
Right.
it's a couple of little extra things in there as well. I think you can customize the ship a little more. You can like visually change it.
Oh, yeah,
and
that'd be
stuff like
nice.
that, I think.
I'd be into that.
Cool game.
Cool ass game. My number 6 game of the year. The last one I will talk about this week. I wonder. It's got to be on at least one of our other lists.
Ooh.
Okay.
It starts with S.
This is the
Starfield.
one that you thought I was going to say.
Yeah.
I don't have any other S games. Oh, actually, I've got one that I only wrote down the subtitle, but I guess it does start with an S.
It is. It must be the one that I'm about to say. Star Wars Jedi: Survivor.
Oh, I always put the colon in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Which has been a big medical problem. Yes, it's on my honorables. It's not on my list,
great.
but
Okay.
yeah, we can talk about that now, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
I enjoyed it a lot more than its predecessor, Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah.
I loved the traversal in this one. I loved the addition of like those things you're slingshotting when you're going around in the sky. Great battles, like really, really intense one-on-one boss battles. Fun exploration. The scope of it was bigger, which is saying something that the previous one was still. It had some massive, that sort of scale comparison stuff is always fun in Star Wars stuff when it's done well. And I enjoyed the protagonist a lot more than the last game as well. And the story, I think I enjoyed more.
I think really similarly to Spider-Man 2, this is like that type of Star Wars or comic book or whatever movie. This is the good version of those stories where it's like it's got something cool. The characters are doing a little bit more beyond there's the big set piece surprises and whatever.
Doing like the inner struggles and the battles with your own history and shit like that, which again, like is when Star Wars does it well, it's done. The best a blockbuster can do it.
Fun, goofy side characters and whatever.
Yeah.
I remember having like a few more like technical problems with it at the
That's
time,
right,
which
yeah.
I think a lot of those have been ironed out. So if you go to play it today, it's not an issue now.
Yes.
To the same extent.
And I think luckily for me, I didn't have any at the time, so I just had a much smoother and more enjoyable experience with it.
Swinging a fucking lightsaber, man.
It's fun.
It's so weird that that's not like something from our like genetic history.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's weird that that's
Yeah.
not a lizard
It's
brain
just-
thing because
yeah.
it fucking is.
It's fully made up.
I wish I could have the experience of being like 8 when Star Wars 1 came, New Hope first came out, and being in the cinema and like no context,
I was
nothing like it.
minus 12.
Not part of the cultural landscape yet.
Yeah.
And just getting to have that experience of like barely anything leading up to it and just being like, holy shit.
And it's like it's a testament to this game that even with the like huge amount of Star Wars shit that there is now, it's not held down by that. It doesn't feel
Right.
it still feels exciting and like
Right.
kind of explorational or whatever in the way that Star Wars when it's good does. It feels like some of the stuff, especially towards the end of like the bigger battles that you get in and like the places that you go where it's like, oh, that's such a cool idea to do with it.
Right. Yes, it's not just Tatooine again, or that all the
Tatooine again is my favorite Zac Efron movie. 17
Yeah,
again, was he
yep,
in that?
yep,
I've fucking done it.
Yep. Suddenly 30 Tatooine. And like the customization in this, the different combat styles, the different lightsaber attachments and shit. It's all there if you are keen to explore that stuff. But you can also just like never change any of that and go through the game and have a really fun time.
It's at a good level, I thought, like the level of difficulty of the combat and stuff. Because like there's
yeah.
some of those like bounty hunter missions and whatever where you
Yeah.
can do some of the harder bosses and stuff, and some of the like main game bosses. There's bits of it where you're like, oh boy, I'm fighting here.
Absolutely.
Having all those force powers and stuff to use though. And I remember, just really getting propelled through it in an enjoyable way. Also like you said, the bigger planets with a bit more side stuff to go and do.
Yep.
It was fun to do a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, I think if I had any nitpicks, like the map still I don't love, that holographic map. It's still a little confusing, especially when so much of the game is like, unlocking new areas and finding new things and like a little bit of Metroid-y sort of exploration stuff. It just could be less confusing. I think, that and Control, I think, had that similar kind of map where you're like, what fucking level am I on now?
With Metroid Prime remastered this year as well, it reminded me, like, the map in that is the same thing and it's really good.
Yeah.
You can really follow it.
Yeah.
I think that's what people are trying to recreate. And I don't know what the difference is, but...
Right. But apart from that, I, loved it. Great game.
Star Wars music and the approximations of it that the composers of future things other than John Williams have done, fuck, it's good.
Yeah, it really helps.
Wah!
It really
listen to
helps.
that. Beautiful.
And I think it even helped more that I have been completely disengaged from all of that other Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, so...
For like 5 years or whatever.
A thing comes along that's actually kind of good and you're a bit fresh. You're not just like burnt
totally.
out.
It's the best Star Wars thing going at the moment because it also gets that like Star Wars Wild West Outback kind of thing going.
Yeah, yes.
And the damn, aren't the Imperials scary type of stuff.
Yeah. Couple of nice little moments of like, wow, this game, they got this character showing up? Fucking hell, they must have... How'd they get him in here?
Fucking
They
Jar
paid
Jar
him a
Binks is here? What the hell?
How'd they get him?
Yeah. There's one bit where they sort of reused the thing from the first one that it's like, well, but you're doing a Star Wars game, so...
Yeah, it's pretty good.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And like... that thought's gone.
New video games good?
Force... there'll definitely be a third too. Like it ends with a and I'm keen to see them really like if they can fucking crystallize everything they've done in these first couple because I like that first one too.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I think that one I had like a game breaking bug towards the end where I was
it really
like,
colors your thing of it. I kind of feel like I want to wait 6 months after the next one comes out and like go see it then.
Yeah,
because if they can. And this one shows that there's room for growth that also they are capable of doing.
Yeah.
Between these two, so a third one could be fucking cool.
I think this maybe has my favorite level design of any game this year because it is so like it is tight and it is Metroid-y where you are unlocking shit and going back and doing the like shortcuts and like there's that level where I think you're like exploring a crashed space station.
Sure, with like the big like laser going through the middle of it, or
yeah. I thought that was really, really intelligently designed, and it felt really satisfying to get through each section of that when it was literally just like basically like going through a skyscraper or like an apartment block.
Especially when you loop back on yourself, the way you do it is with a cool flying fox.
Yeah, yes, totally.
It's just it's a super like a romp type game.
Totally, yeah.
The world's first romp type game.
It's like just a real video game.
Absolutely.
But it's doing it all to such a high level.
Speaking of video games,
okay,
I think this is certainly one of those, and it's the best version other than a certain group has done. And we'll probably talk about it next week, I'm guessing, or it could be an honorable, but I think it's on your list, I bet. But I don't know. Number 6 for me.
You really covered all your bases.
Yeah. Or you've never heard of it, or it's your favorite game, or you developed it.
Okay.
Number 6 for me starts with an L.
Yeah.
Next week?
Yep.
Next week we'll talk about Lies of P.
Yeah, baby.
If you'd have come to me on the day of my daughter's wedding several years ago and told me that on my top 10 games of the year would be a Pinocchio Dark Souls, I would have gone, tell me about Bitcoin. Should I buy or not?
I think you would have believed it.
Yeah,
I think you'd be
probably
like, that's just crazy enough to work.
Yeah,
well, and I guess that's kind of how I feel we reacted at the time it getting announced too, of like, that's so weird that they must have a reason why they're doing it.
I feel like once we saw gameplay or like, anything above and beyond just the title, once we saw the visualization and the way they were approaching it, it was like, I think it was like a playable demo.
They put out a demo of it at some point earlier in the year, and that was definitely, because there's a lot of the Souls-like type of games that kind of come and go and never quite capture the thing that's so good about those. Lords of the Fallen was this year, remember?
Yeah.
And there's
Wolong Fallen something Dynasty or whatever.
Yeah.
That is, I had like a little section of like games I kind of was disappointed by, and that was on that.
Yep, same, yeah.
Because I when that type of game is good, we all had Elden Ring as our number one game of 2022. Like, it fucking rocks.
Yeah.
But Lies of P, and we'll talk more about it next week as we continue our Game of the Year coverage. It's the first to properly nail that. Not quite to the extent that From does, but like, of course.
Yeah.
But it really fucking does, and we'll talk about it more. But I like Lies of P, and I'm not afraid to admit it. They told me to keep quiet about it.
I played this game and finished it.
Now, what's that a reference to?
Tommy motioned his hand off of his penis. And
I put a slide whistle up my ass.
yeah, no, it was a long nose growing.
Should
if
we?
anyone
Do we?
wants to know.
Do we need to juice this episode at all? Because
Well,
I've got some
I don't think
things
we
that are.
necessarily need to juice, but we could
And hey-
maybe do.
No episode needs juicing.
No.
Please.
I've got.
We could do some disappointments.
Yeah,
Is
why
it
don't we
maybe
do
better
that?
to get that out of the way now, and then we go into our top 5, and there's no negativity in there?
Yeah.
There'll be some not to expect that are popping up on lists too. I think I can speak for all of us on one.
Okay.
Do we all? I think all of us were not necessarily like haters, as the internet loves to say, but
Well, let's wait and see.
Yeah.
we dropped.
Yeah, we're just gonna say it.
I had higher expectations, especially similar to Lies of P, from the demo versus the rest of the game to Final Fantasy 16.
100%. I
Yep.
thought that when I started
That's a
playing
high
that,
fucking score. You loved it.
Yeah.
when I was playing that demo, I thought, this is going to make a run for number 1
Yeah.
at the end of the year.
Yep.
I loved that demo. I was skeptical about what we'd seen of it in the lead up. It looked a little more, generic medieval than I like my Final Fantasies to be. But that demo, I loved. I loved the combat. I loved what it was doing in the story. And then just this is what I'm talking about with just a bit of just felt bloated, and it just
Didn't have that magic.
Weirdly it did at the start of it. Those first 2 hours, it really did. And then I don't think I've ever played anything quite like that, where there was like such a massive drop off from the first couple of hours with how much I was absolutely loving it to just getting bored and abandoning it.
Yeah. I think you played the most of it, Knox.
Yeah, I got up to what was the most recent thing I did? It's been a while since I played it, but I
I feel like I got eventually to the same point. Like
I beat
characters die and come back, and there's a lot of that going on.
I killed the rock man, the big guy.
Yeah, I think I got further than you in the end, but
I
liked
went a
it
bit after
less.
that.
I think I was enjoying the combat mechanically, but it had a bit of that similar thing to what I felt about God of War
Maybe
Ragnarok.
I did some shit after that. Actually, I'm sorry. I can't. Yeah.
That similar thing to what I felt with God of War Ragnarok, where it's just all these battles are just taking place in a circular little arena. Like there just wasn't enough mixing up of like, now I'm running around here. Like it all started to just feel just really samey.
Yep.
Walk here, do this. Like it was just, and that's sort of every game, as we talk about a lot, is just every game is a 90-second loop or whatever it is.
But it's when a game doesn't pull the curtains closed. Is
As
that
soon
the
as you
opposite of
can-
pulling back the curtains?
as soon as you can see it, it's like
once the
I'm
trick
tapped
stops
out.
working, right? Yeah.
Christian Bale's got a twin. That's how he did it. But like it.
No, I completely agree, and I think it was this game. I've blocked it mostly from my memory. There were a lot of sections of grey corridors.
It's
And
quite.
it was just like, okay, you didn't have time to finish this.
yeah.
I thought they looked okay, and like I didn't have the same problem with those. I remember you saying that.
Right.
It was the pacing of it. It just felt a little laborious, a little slow to me. Which
Yeah.
I liked it, and I was enjoying it. But it was, I think it lost me at some point, and the difference between how I thought I would feel about it versus how I did.
Yeah,
was
it's maybe the biggest drop off I've ever had in something from the volume I was liking it in the beginning to how I ended up feeling about it, and it's really the only big disappointment I could think of for this year. For me, really.
It's certainly like I and again I liked it. Don't come for me yet.
Yeah, these
keep going.
I've got several games here that I liked, but I guess the base level is like I enjoyed these games, but they had potential maybe to be more, or they were my expectations were higher than they maybe should have been. Right. Dave the Diver was one where I think I just played it after you guys played it and was expecting maybe... I can't even say that it was objectively not as good as I thought. I just didn't enjoy it. I didn't connect with it in a way that I think a lot of people did. A lot of people really enjoyed it at the time.
Fair enough.
I think the character and the personality of the game did not kind of jibe with me at all. Wolong, as we mentioned before, a Souls-like game that I expected to like and love the setting and all of that stuff, just didn't continue to play it after the first couple of hours.
Yep.
Dead Island 2, it was fine, but I was hoping to enjoy it more than I did. And then I've got a category here that I don't think you guys will have. It's called
Ben's favorite games.
Well, it's called Game Named After Me.
Ooh.
And there was a game this year called Vernal Edge.
Was there?
Yeah.
I missed that.
It was like
it
a sort of 16-bit 2D Metroidvania action game.
Okay.
And it was called Vernal Edge.
Okay.
Okay.
Your browser of choice.
That's right.
Did you play it?
No. Just saw it in the list as I was doing my prep last
I also
night.
just sort of made a note of like just ones that have popped up on a lot of Game of the Year lists that none of us really liked Hi-Fi Rush that much.
Oh,
Yeah.
true.
But we've gone into that. And also I do want to point out though, the big fucking disappointment for me of this year was PSVR 2 as a whole.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Yep.
some shit that it's a great headset and there aren't any games for it. And beyond that, they haven't really announced any fucking games for it.
Yeah.
That's the like really frustrating and terrifying thing is that they have just sort of...
Yeah, they announced those slim PlayStations and a bunch of the PlayStation Portal, and
It's such a drop of the ball to have this, to expect people. And you could announce something like that and you know that you're going to get, diehard PlayStation fans, tech heads, etc., going in on good faith on day one. And to just, have said nothing about it this far in is just maddening when there's
stuff coming out for it, to be clear, but it's also coming out on the Quest, almost all of it.
And
no first party stuff.
Because there was Horizon Call of the Mountain, which was fine. Gran Turismo and Resident Evil 8 were cool.
Yeah.
And Resident Evil 4 having the VR mode is really cool.
Yep.
But Humanity had a VR mode and stuff like that.
But these
it's
are
just
also inessential. You need like a new you need like a, you have to have a VR2 headset to play this game, and it is more unique than anything you can do.
And even if they hadn't come out this year, they did a couple of those state of plays that weren't that interesting, that unfortunately they didn't. So I just want to say, still don't get a PS5. You get it.
Yeah,
PSVR
Especially
2, fucking Porky Pig.
There's such like a roadmap of how to do, there are so many examples of this happening with even just new consoles. What was it, a year or so after the 3DS had come out, when no games had come out on it, and they had to do that loyalty ambassador program, and that they put some virtual console stuff on there that you got for free if you had gone in day one as they actively were like, hey, we're really sorry, you all went in early, we have not provided you with the software that we should have. Consoles live or die by this kind of stuff. So there's sort of no excuse to just be like, the history books of video games are littered with examples of these things that fall over because they just don't have. You've got to give people a bit of a roadmap with the software, even if you just say, we are working on a new Astrobot that will be out in a couple of years.
That was the thing from this year that is the biggest, my big what the fuck moment of 2023. It's this cool new segment I'm hoping to get going.
It's good. It's up there with What's Bugging Ben.
I wish they'd
segments.
fucking name a game after me. Then I'd have then I'd have a segment.
While we're at it, I just wanted to note, there were some shit games this year.
I'm sure there were.
Forspoken,
Golem. I forgot about that.
Golem game, Redfall, AFL 23.
This is like the in memoriam section of the Oscars.
And City Skylines 2, I guess, is a disappointment for me in that I would have liked it to be good, but it was buggy as hell. Getting fucking weird coding error messages and stuff coming up when I tried to play it.
Actually, those are arachnids.
And games I did not play. I thought would be worth calling.
I've got a little wish list too. A wish I'd
That's mine,
played
yeah,
or played more of.
Yeah, my honourable mentions /
Right.
wish I'd gotten around to.
And I don't know if this would have been good or bad, but I did not play Exoprimal.
Right.
I didn't play Oxenfree 2. That was another
Mm-hmm.
indie game that a lot of people really enjoyed this
Any
year.
game with an X in it is not getting played by Ben.
yeah.
I didn't play Mortal Kombat 1, but I do intend to,
Mm-hmm.
and I expect to like it.
A K looks like an X a bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And another K game, Honkai Star Rail was the big
Oh, yeah.
Hoyo-verse, not sequel, but follow on from Genshin Impact.
That's right. You had a big Genshin phase back in the day.
I really enjoyed it, and this I think it's like a tactical strategy version of that kind of thing with the
Right.
character unlocking and the gacha sort of mechanic as well. And was just like a massive, massive game that none of us really engaged with at all.
Yeah.
It went viral because there's a line, it may be from Genshin, I don't know if it's from Genshin or from Honkai Star Rail, of someone, there's like a judgment court, they're called the Oratrice Mécanique d'Analyse Cardinal. And he says it with such rhythm that people started dancing to it on
Yeah,
TikTok.
Sounds like a Lin-Manuel Miranda lyric.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've got a little wish list here of some
Yeah.
stuff we might mention, so we don't need to go into it. None of us played Jagged Alliance 3, and I think that looks cool. Mm-hmm. I like the little fake computer menu it's got.
Yeah, I saw that in a bunch of other Game of the Year lists last night and was like, oh shit. I got
That's one I didn't get around to. I wish I'd have played more of Street Fighter 6. I just
too.
didn't.
Right.
But I was really liking it, and
Yep.
then, didn't. Wild Hearts seemed cool.
Yeah.
There's a new Monster Hunter in a couple of years. Unrelated.
No, it's a similar game. That's
It's on
why you
Game
said
Pass
it.
now. I might give it a go over
Yeah,
summer.
yeah.
And Sea of Stars, I never
Sea
got
of
around
Stars
to.
is,
yeah.
I did the first couple of hours and
Yeah, same.
I really want to return to that because especially loving Mario RPG and it's very much a follow-on of that style, like
Totally.
mechanical style of RPG.
Shout outs to the games we never looked at. It'd be good if the Oscars did that too. Be like, yeah, look, we just didn't watch La La Land.
Didn't get time.
Who cares?
Too many movies came out.
Yeah.
And they're 2 hours long each.
Jazz, So,
I
but
guess-
I heard it's good.
Yeah, I guess I have like some honorable mentions that I did play a lot of, but I guess to shout out the ones that I just didn't play enough of that might have been on my list. Viewfinder, I played the demo of and loved, and just didn't get around to finishing the game. And Chance of Sinar probably would be on my list if I'd played more than the first, like literally half an hour.
It almost made mine.
Yeah, right.
I'll pipe up now about it since we're here. Chance of Senna is a fucking cool game.
Yeah.
It is really cleverly done. All of the puzzles about language. Fuck, should I put it on my list? It looks great.
It may be the best looking game of the year for me.
Stylistically, it's just really cool. I think the reason it just sort of missed out is because it's one of those ones where I did it and I was like, cool, and like didn't think about it more. But like Dredge, when they've put up updates, I've been like, Dredge, remember that, for example. But like also Chance of Senna is like tied number 10 / almost 11 or something. It's really great and worth playing if you like puzzle games. It's like a little bit it's the good type of difficult where once you crack the code, literally it's so satisfying. So Chance of Senna, big shout out.
Yeah, absolutely.
My big one that I regret not getting, I didn't even start it, and I know we'll talk about it next episode. But Alan Wake 2, I just
Right.
I'm pretty positive I'll like it, but because it's such a, by all accounts, like such a mood-based game as well.
Yes.
Anytime I had a spare bit of time, it was like, middle of the afternoon, and I was like, I want to sink into this at night. Like,
Yeah.
I want to play this like kind of later on in the day.
Yeah.
It just didn't really feel like a thing that you could do. Little bits of during the day for half an hour at a time.
It's got pretty segmented chapters that are generally about an hour and a half long or something like
Yeah.
that. Which it's a good one if like there were a time you were going to binge a TV series.
Right.
Play Alan Wake 2 instead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, maybe I'll expand on that. In fact, I'll definitely expand on that.
But that's my big
next
one
week.
that I just, not only
Yeah.
didn't play enough of, but just actively did not start because I was like, I'm not in the right place to give this the attention it deserves at the moment. So I'll hold off maybe over summer. But that's really the only like big one that I just did not start that I wish I had of.
Yeah, I think I gave everything a crack that I wanted to, and certainly of the big games of the year, I think I dipped into everything and either liked it or was like, not for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel satisfied that we've all pretty comprehensively wrapped up the year, save for each of our 5 favorite games.
Yeah.
Which I don't know about you guys, but my plan is to talk about them in a week.
Yeah.
Do you want to? How does that sound?
Well, my plan is to talk about them with you guys within the next like half an hour.
I mean, that's...
But my plan is for the listener to hear us talk about them in a week.
yeah.
Sure.
And actually for us, in 3 weeks or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. I guess we should have made it more complicated. You're right. We'll be back next week with the top 5 of each of our games of the year, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're
let us
excited.
know your 10 to 6 in the comments.
Go do the little poll.
Yeah, go
Again,
vote in the
Yeah.
poll. We'll chat about it in January.
there'll be a little like sort of questionnaire thing as well there. Just wrapping up the year. Fucking
Yeah.
Go have a look at that. It's in the show notes. Yeah.
Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time. And as we say here at the end of every episode of Filthy Casuals,
Game of the year.